What is research? Research is a systematic and rigorous investigation of a situation or problem. The goal is either to generate new knowledge or to confirm and validate what we already believe to be true. Notice the keywords here. Systematic means it follows a planned method, and rigorous means it's careful, accurate, and evidence-based. So research isn't guessing, it's structured learning. All right, with that foundation in mind, let's move to the next idea. Applied research. Applied research is research done to solve real-world problems. Instead of learning just for curiosity, applied research aims to find solutions we can use, like improving crop production, treating disease, or improving energy efficiency in homes and transportation. So if the outcome is meant to be used directly in practice, we usually call it applied research. Good. Now let's shift to the other side of the coin. Basic research. Basic research, also called fundamental or pure research, is driven by curiosity and scientific interest. Here, the main purpose is expanding knowledge, not creating an immediate commercial product. For example, questions like, how did the universe begin? Or what are electrons made of? Or what is the genetic code of a fruit fly? These may not give instant practical results, but they create the foundation for future applied discoveries. Now that we've covered research by purpose, let's move into research by approach. Correlational research, meaning plus example. Correlational research studies the relationship between two or more variables. The key point is, it looks for association, but it does not automatically prove cause and effect. For example, if we want to test the idea listening to music lowers blood pressure, we could do it in two ways: an experiment where one group listens to music and we compare blood pressure, or a survey where we ask people about their music habits and compare with blood pressure outcomes. Correlation helps us see patterns, then we decide what to test further. All right, let's quickly weigh the strengths and limitations of this type. Correlational research, advantages and disadvantages. Correlational research has several advantages. It can gather lots of information from many people at once. It can also study a wide range of variables and how they relate. And it helps us study things that are difficult to produce in a lab. But there are limitations. Correlation does not mean causation. Two things may move together, without one causing the other. Also, if the data comes from self-report methods like surveys, people may be inaccurate or biased in their answers. Okay, next, let's look at a type of research that focuses on describing what's happening. Descriptive research, meaning plus example. Descriptive research is about describing what exists. It provides an accurate portrayal of characteristics of a person, group, or situation. It is sometimes called statistical research because it often involves counts and measurable descriptions. This type of research helps us discover meanings, determine how often something happens, and categorize information. For example, identifying the most frequent disease affecting children in a town. This helps guide prevention and decision-making. So that's what it is. Now, let's consider the pros and cons. Descriptive research, advantages and disadvantages. One benefit of descriptive research is that people often behave naturally, especially when they don't feel they're being tested. It's generally less expensive and less time-consuming than quantitative experiments, and it can collect detailed notes for deep understanding. However, it requires strong research skills, and it typically does not identify the cause behind a phenomenon. Response rates can be low, and results may change over time, so careful interpretation is important. Great! Next, we move into research that studies people in their culture and everyday setting. Ethnographic research. Ethnographic research is the in-depth study of a culture or community by observing and engaging with its members. It involves collecting, describing, and analyzing data to understand cultural behavior. Common methods include participant observation, interviews, and questionnaires. The aim is to understand what's happening naturally in a real setting and interpret what the data suggests about beliefs, practices, and social patterns. All right, now let's shift to the type of research best known for testing cause and effect. Experimental research, overview plus pros/cons. Experimental research is objective, systematic, and controlled. It's designed to predict and control phenomena and to test probability and causality among variables. Its biggest advantage is that it best establishes cause and effect relationships. But it also has disadvantages. Experiments can feel artificial. Sometimes they're not feasible in real life, and some experiments raise ethical concerns, especially if people could be harmed or treated unfairly. With that in mind, let's break down the basic structure of an experiment. Experimental design, variables and groups. Here's the simplest experimental design: 2 variables and 2 groups. First, variables. The independent variable is what the researcher changes, the predictor. The dependent variable is the outcome, the result we measure. Researchers manipulate and control the independent variable to study its effect on the dependent variable. Second, groups. The control group does not receive manipulation, while the experimental group receives the treatment or change. Ideally, participants are randomly assigned so the groups are fair and comparable. Alright, next, let's look at what we do when we're still trying to figure out the problem itself. Exploratory research. Exploratory research is used when a problem isn't clearly defined yet. It helps researchers decide the best research design, how to collect data, and who to study. The results may not be perfect for direct decision-making on their own, but they can provide strong insight. Also, exploratory findings are not usually generalizable to the entire population. Methods can include secondary research, reviewing literature, informal discussions, interviews, focus groups, case studies, and pilot studies. Now, let's move into an approach where theory is built directly from data. Grounded theory research. Grounded theory is a research approach used to discover what is happening in a social environment and develop a theory directly from data. It may feel reverse compared to traditional research because instead of starting with a theory, we build one gradually from what we observe. The process has 4 stages. Codes. Identify key points in the data. Concepts. Group similar codes together. Categories. Broader groups of concepts. Theory. A connected explanation of what the data suggests. Alright, next let's look at research that focuses on understanding the past. Historical research, meaning plus steps. Historical research analyzes events from the remote or recent past. It can show patterns over time and help us understand where we came from, what solutions were used previously, and how that perspective improves how we examine current events and educational practices. The steps are: identify the topic and question, collect data or literature, evaluate materials, synthesize the data, and then prepare the report or narrative. Now, let's quickly review what makes historical research strong and what limits it. Historical research, strengths and limitations. Historical research can give social scientists important context for making realistic decisions. Its strengths include providing a comprehensive picture of trends over time, using existing information, and offering evidence of ongoing problems. But limitations are significant. It can be time-consuming, resources may be hard to locate or conflicting, and information may be incomplete, inaccurate, or obsolete. Also, the research is restricted to what already exists, so you can't create new historical evidence the way you can generate new experimental data. Alright, next is a type of research that explores lived experience. Phenomenological research. Phenomenological research focuses on describing an experience as it is actually lived by a person. It is inductive and descriptive, based on phenomenological philosophy. It studies experience from the individual's perspective and often involves bracketing, setting aside assumptions, and focusing on how the person truly perceives the experience. This approach is powerful for understanding motivations and meanings that may not be visible through numbers alone. Now, let's zoom out and group research into 2 broad families. 2 broad groups: qualitative versus quantitative. On a broader level, research can be grouped into 2 major types: qualitative and quantitative research. Qualitative focuses more on meaning, experiences, and understanding. Quantitative focuses more on measurement, numbers, and statistical analysis. Next, we'll look at each in more detail. Alright, let's begin with qualitative research. Qualitative research definition. Qualitative research deals with phenomena that are difficult or impossible to quantify mathematically, such as beliefs, meanings, attributes, and symbols. The aim is to gain an in-depth understanding of human behavior and the reasons behind actions. Qualitative research explores the why and how of decisions, not just what happened, where, and when. Now let's balance that with its advantages and disadvantages. Qualitative research, advantages and disadvantages. Qualitative research is excellent for studying complex human experiences in depth. It puts fewer restrictions on what data can be collected and is very useful for exploratory research and generating hypotheses. Participants can express themselves in their own words. However, it can be difficult to determine validity and reliability because language data is subjective and interpretation-heavy. Open-ended questions can produce huge amounts of data, sometimes called data overload, and analyzing it can be time-consuming. Great. Now let's move to quantitative research. Quantitative research, definition plus methods. Quantitative research is the systematic empirical investigation of phenomena using statistical, mathematical, or computational techniques. It aims to develop and use mathematical models, theories, and hypotheses about what's being studied. It often includes generating models and hypotheses, developing measurement instruments, controlling variables experimentally, collecting empirical data, modeling and analyzing data, and evaluating results. Finally, let's summarize the main strengths and limitations of quantitative research. Quantitative research, advantages and disadvantages. Quantitative research allows researchers to measure and analyze data clearly, and it supports objectivity in findings. It's especially strong for testing hypotheses using statistics. But there are disadvantages. Sometimes the context of real life is ignored, and quantitative methods may not capture meanings people attach to experiences. Also, quantitative research often needs large samples to produce more accurate, reliable conclusions.